the way that I was operating sort of helped me be in the world and not have to like, yeah, it was kind of like a safety blanket or whatever. Yeah. Like a little security shield. And then I was like, oh, I am just now finally kind of having this experience, like the last couple of years doing some integrating work, like therapy stuff. And, yeah, just being like, what do I really want? Like, how do I really want to go about this creative life? And how does it feel like to be doing all of these things that I signed up to do? And like, do I feel like my most authentic self?
Erin Rae, thank you so much for coming over.
Thanks for having me.
I've been looking forward to this for a while now.
Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to it too. And you would think I would have been on time. I don't know if you want to talk about how late I was to get here on the podcast.
I think it's irrelevant to the subject at hand.
Well,
I'm in a spirit of discovery.
I owe Korby.
Erin arrived trying to provide potential solutions to her idea that she was profoundly late. Yeah. One of which was like in a future point, we schedule an occasion at which time we agree to meet. And then I will be an hour late and then we'll be even.
That's like known. The whole thing is for me to sit there for an hour and wait for Korby to get there.
A little kid punishing herself.
And I can't order anything until Korby gets there.
I look forward to that atonement. I feel like we have a lot to talk about, and I want to get into it. We keep stumbling on really interesting subjects off mic, so I'm glad the mics are rolling, so we can stumble.
Thank you.
With confidence. You have a couple of tours coming up. I saw on the announcements.
Yeah, I've been off the road since mid-October, and I'm really excited. I am going on tour in July with Dean Johnson, who had a great record that came out on Mama Bird last year, 2 years ago. Anyways, doesn't matter. It does matter. But that's in July. And then September, I'm going to be going to Europe with the Deep Dark Woods. They're a Canadian band that I'm a huge fan of. And then Penny and Sparrow on the West Coast in October. So they are my Single Lock and Now 30 Tigers label mates.
It's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I gave the full spiel.
It's great. No, let's get it out of the way up front.
Here are the plugs. The podcast plugs.
Podcast plugs. We don't often start that way, but it's like nice to do something different for once.
We can do it again. We can go.
Okay, we'll come back around to it again. I'll erase this all. Let us begin with a personal reflection, which was, I think, the very first time I met you, which was in East Nashville, over in the Cleveland Park neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I was living with my friend Jimmy Linville, and I don't know, and you came over, or we were just like, the house was of the nature that, songwriters would drop by and songs would be played. A joyful time it was. And you came by once and played and sang, and I was just like, man, that girl's intimidatingly good.
Oh my gosh.
And, but do you remember, well, you don't have to remember that night. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm just trying to think of like, do you know Jimmy Linville? Do you know like any, he lives in Australia now, so it doesn't matter. Sorry, Jimmy.
Sorry, Jimmy. So it was y'all two living there?
It was me. No, I was like kind of crashing. It was he and his buddy, Daniel Pingray. And they had a band called
Daniel
the Lion.
Yes,
exactly.
I do remember this.
Yes.
And Daniel is a wizard.
He is.
He played keys with my friend Kashina Sampson for a long time. And then I think he moved back to Wisconsin. But I was thinking on the way over here, I was like, I remember vividly, so funny. I have a memory of, it was when Whole Foods first opened, it felt like. And I saw you across the way at Whole Foods, and I was like, that's Korby, Lenker. And I didn't know you.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that makes me feel cool in hindsight.
It was like, do you know how you like see people before meeting them around town? Or maybe this is just me, and I'm like, hey, that person is a songwriter. And I see them, and now I'm seeing them at the store, and now I'm going to be really shy.
I have a version of that story that happened yesterday, which was that I was at the Publix on the east side over here in Gallatin, making a quick errand.
Yep.
And I went and did it. And I came out of the grocery store with the bags. And there was this guy about my age, kind of musician-y looking.
Yeah.
But he had like a little girl with him. And he was like holding the little girl's hand. And she was walking kind of on her own. And because I have a 4-month-old, I thought, oh, I wonder how old she is to be doing that. So like, I kind of need to know like when to get ready for that. And so I was just like, hey man, how old's your girl? He looked at me for a second and then he told me she was 1.5 years. And then we had like this short little conversation. And then afterwards, because of like how he looked, like he was dressed, I don't know, whatever, how we dressed, something about him suggested that I might be running into him in the scene in the future. And so I said, hey, what's your name? And he said, Kevin. And I said, I'm Korby. And he like shook my hand. And then both of us were like, is this moment going to go past this? And I realized like it was up to me to decide. And I was like, have a great day. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have introduced myself. I don't know. You just never know what to do.
Yeah. It's hard to know sometimes, but I think you handled that great.
You think so?
That sounds like a good...
I'm sure he'll be sitting in that chair at some point in the future and we can reflect on this moment.
We're going to come back around.
We'll have a time.
That's, what do they call that on TikTok? It's like the thread theory or whatever. It's like the invisible thread. Like maybe he's going to be a very monumental person in your life.
And that
5
was
years
the first
down the road.
tug.
And you'll be like, hey, I think I met you in Publix parking lot once.
I'm sure that if we thought about this, I mean, maybe you have a story right there.
I don't have a story, but...
Because I know that's definitely happened.
Yeah.
You see somebody first. I mean, it happened for you.
Yes.
You saw me at the Whole Foods. And now here we are.
Okay, whoa.
10 years later. Whatever that was. Okay, well, I always am interested in an origin story. And we were just talking for a second ago about you moving here. And I want to get to the good part, but I'll just do a quick dumb summary.
Yes.
And which is that you moved from Jackson, Mississippi.
Tennessee.
Yep. Jackson, Tennessee. I assumed. No, corrected. And moved east a little bit.
Yep. Scooched
to West Nashville.
Yep.
You could say east of West Nashville.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was when you were 10 to 12.
Yes.
You were 6th
11.
grade. 11. Wow. Split the difference. Okay.
Yep.
And he had said something kind of interesting off the mic, which was that had you not moved then to Nashville, you might not be doing music now.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about your beginnings in music. Did you have a musical family?
Yes.
Did you have early encouragement?
Yes.
Is there a story you could relate?
Yes. I was like,
the floor is yours.
Sometimes I will interrupt and like talk on top of people, and on podcasts, I'm very mindful of, I'm like, oh, I should wait.
Nice. Yeah. Nicely done. No, that's advanced technique for sure. You're an excellent guest.
I'm working on it. Yes, we moved here when I was going into the 6th grade. But yeah, I always say, I just think about any time that like any of my friends that have moved here to pursue music, I'm like, wow, I just feel like I kind of am actualizing as a self, like I'm self-actualizing, I guess. Finally, in the last couple of years, like I don't know that I would have put a plan together and had the wherewithal to like move myself to a city at 19 or 21, like some of my friends did. And I did come from a musical family, but not a professional musical family. My parents played when I was growing up, and
played guitar,
guitar and sang
covers
together. And yeah, my dad has written a handful. I'm sure he's written more, but I'm aware of a handful of songs that he's written that are really beautiful. And it just was very much part of our life growing up. My parents played a lot, especially when we lived in Jackson, Tennessee. And when we moved here, they found musical friends pretty quickly, just because a lot of people are musical here. So my parents' friends would have like pickin' parties around Thanksgiving and stuff like that, and we'd had some songwriter friends, or they had songwriter friends. So and we knew that like my friend, my mom's good friend, Annette, her husband, Troy Lancaster, was a session guitarist here. And it just, I was aware that like you could pursue a career in music, but so it always kind of felt like there is that world, but I didn't really know about how to like plan to achieve that or something. I just kind of,
Well, you were 11.
I was 11. Yeah. That whole time that I was thinking about all of that. Yeah.
I could see there was a way forward, but I just can't see quite how to get there. Perhaps someday.
But yeah, so, but they were definitely very encouraging of like, my dad's very much like Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss type vibe.
Would you describe your upbringing or your parents, like, were they kind of philosophical? What were their interests besides music and like religious people or
not religious? But spiritual for sure. And yeah, I feel like the recovery community, like maybe this is okay to share, just like 12-step recovery community. My mom's was a therapist and like meditation teacher later in life. And so there was just always this, I feel like my upbringing, like what was important, it was like music, emotional well-being. And then like, it was kind of like I've been thinking about this a lot recently, like emotional well-being came first. So like, that kind of tracks for like goal setting and stuff. It's like, I'm not really necessarily, I've never been like a specific goal person, more just like follow my true desire or whatever. And that's also kind of an elusive thing. So I don't know.
It shifts, but it's also a constant in a way.
Yeah. There is a little
shifting.
Yes. So
you stumbled, not would say stumbled, but you weren't like, I'm going to play Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
It was more like, I would like to see.
I'm like, I want to play songs, I want to release a record that sounds like Ray LaMontagne, and I want to go to Europe and play music in Europe. That was like kind of as far, I just didn't really know. I feel like I'm only recently in the last several years, like kind of learning the importance of like getting specific about it. I definitely, as time has gone on, I'm like, I want a label, I want a manager, I want a booking agent, and that stuff was there, but, or popped up along the way, but especially it was general. It was like, I went to a semester of college, came home, my dad had gotten me a guitar for my 18th birthday, and I went to an open mic at Cafe Coco.
Oh yeah.
RIP. And stayed there basically for like 2 years. And I was like, this is so cool. I didn't know that like I could just go hang out. I don't know. I just was like in the suburbs. I didn't know that I could just like go out and find other people my age that were just like hanging out and playing guitar.
That place was a one of one in its power for that, because it was underage, right? And it was open either all night or
24 hours.
Yeah. So crazy. So you could
camp out.
You could camp out there and no one was mad about it.
Yes. We would like take over. It was like the open mic was on Thursday night. And the first time I went, I saw some friends from high school. And at that point I was very much like, I had started to sing a little bit here and there with my dad, like in the year leading up to that. And I just was like, it was just so amazing. I don't know. And I started writing songs to be able to play them at Cafe Coco's open mic. And I was like, I'm going to stay home and do music in quotes. Like, like what does that
Whatever
mean?
that means.
Yeah.
Apparently it means hanging out at Cafe Coco right now.
All the time. And, so yeah, it's been kind of a windy way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm always sort of, there's something going on underneath questions I ask often the guests, which is like, where does this artist's like spiritual reservoir come from? Like, what's driving their music?
Yeah.
And actually, I maybe don't think that overtly, but I'm just with you. It's interesting because it's like some people are, like serious trauma and the music is a way out, or I'm just like a depressed person, and it strikes me that I don't think that you're exactly either of those things. It's more of a formula for as part of your overall self worldview of well-being.
Yeah.
Like this is what I want to explore this about myself and what it is like to write a song.
Yes.
Incredibly healthful.
I think, well,
healthy for how good of a songwriter you are.
I would say, I feel like, I don't know. I have 40 thoughts popping into my head right now, but like,
we got time.
I definitely, you know, I was an anxious kid, and any trauma that I experienced growing up was like it didn't feel like it was like directly happening to me or anything. It's kind of like I heard about it. I don't know. And that I've learned is like a sense of that. So anyways, but I also feel like I was encouraged from such an early age, like you're an old soul, like that kind of thing. And I definitely I've always had like a nostalgia like thing where, and I think maybe just growing up around parents who were emotionally tapped in or something, just kind of like I don't feel like I'm an empath, but I do feel like that term is stressful to me, but
what does that term mean? Just so I know.
It means, I feel like it's very much overused, and I don't even know what like the
It doesn't mean just empathetic person?
Yeah.
It means
people,
more than
I feel
that?
like people can identify with it really strongly. And sometimes it can be, I feel like, I'm like, I don't want to offend anyone. I feel like for me, I have noticed like I have some patterns of codependency. So like the empath term is like, sometimes that's codependency for me, where I actually don't know what another person's feeling, but I'm like glomming onto their emotions, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. You're filling in gaps that aren't there.
Yes. How did I get there?
I interrupted. So
No.
It wasn't, your parents were kind of emotionally available.
Yes. And
unto
also
themselves.
I had a sense that there were deep feelings present, like in our household, like, and that the people that I was raised around did experience some heavy stuff. So I think there's an early sort of imagination of what that's felt like or something. Anyways.
That's so interesting. I mean, just like what a little kid is aware of and isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about that with our daughter Zuzu. Just like Randa and I, we do things like we'll kiss each other 3 times in front of her, just for like mom and daddy love. It's just like it's so dumb,
like
but it's like it's kind of just like we want to like have her see it and like just have her feel safe in our family. And
that's really beautiful.
But you know, it's just like I sometimes worry about it's not worry. It's just like.
Ponder it.
I ponder the ways in which I'm going to damage my child on accident. You know what I mean? Just like those shortcomings that I just have as a human being.
Yeah. That can't control them.
Yeah.
Can't prevent it.
Anyway, this is not about me, but
no, I'm here for it.
So we were just talking about where the music comes from.
Yeah.
And
I guess I didn't mean to get off on that tangent, but I won't to do that. I feel like it's like I was encouraged early on. My dad was a musician and writer, and my mom was a writer, and they kind of just sort of like basically affirmed my early efforts. Like my mom helped me write a poem when I was like 5, and she was so like supportive of that and just like seemingly very impressed by like my ability or something, but it was like definitely a joint effort. Anyways,
but you remember that, so that's,
and it sort of planted this like you have a natural ability. That was like a belief that got planted in me early on, and
how powerful that is.
Yeah, and to later, now being a young adult, an early adulthood, we were kind of talking about like the audaciousness or the audacity of like pursuing music. And I feel like that got planted early on, and most of what I can write about tends to be just like some sort of combination of emotional processing and like how that mirrors like what's going on around me, or like how nature, a blend of like nature and metaphors or something.
The songwriter, let's talk about this, because you're actually a really good guitar player too.
Thank you.
Yeah, is that something you've practiced a lot? Or
yes, I sure
you can
could
tell.
stand to practice a little more. I sure could.
Couldn't we all?
My dad fingerpicked growing up, so I feel like I always heard that, and I kind of tried to start doing that early on. But thank you. I don't really know. I definitely could stand to be quite a bit more disciplined with it.
For sure. Can relate. I mean, it's interesting because there's so many ways to make music, and there's so many ways to fit into the world of music and creativity. And some people are really great singers, and some people are just like really amazing, crafty songwriters, you know, like writing on the row. And there's kind of this subheading of those people that are like, you, and I would put myself in this category, which is just like, I never was interested. Like, I remember coming across my first like musics, which I didn't grow up around music at all, but I had my best friend in junior high. His parents were like the coolest people in Twin Falls, Idaho, and
love it,
which is really saying something.
Yes.
That hotbed of
coolness,
pop culture.
Yes.
Yeah. But he had an amazing like folk rock record collection, and so when I kind of discovered music, it was like Neil Young, and James Taylor, and like those kind of cats. And I just assumed that like if you were a musician, you wrote your own songs, you played your own instruments, and you sang the songs that you wrote.
Totally.
And it was like shocking to me when a few years later, I was like, wait, she didn't write, she's just a great singer. That's just like
Linda
that's
Ronstadt.
Exactly. They have
Yes.
like no interest in writing songs. I'm just like the vehicle for other people's songs. I'm like,
so cool
you can do
as
that
well.
too, which is also very cool. Yeah.
Yes.
But I still think that for me, I just come back to, I love a singer-songwriter, and I love a person that tends to write from their own heart in a way that's sort of like maybe tangentially, if that's even a word, commercial.
Yeah.
Like it's almost incidental.
It's really cool when it becomes like a polished, it like fits into a polished, like, there is like a sense of like commerciality or whatever in the songwriting that is also striking that chord somehow. Like, I feel like Maddie Diaz is like such a good, I don't know, her and Caroline Spence, like, I'm like, how do y'all have both of those things where you're like, I can feel your heart in the music, or you make me feel connected to my heart in the music, and it's also like so polished and like structured as well.
Like, it does not hurt that both of those ladies you mentioned are fantastic singers.
Yes. I totally interrupted you, by the way.
No. That's all I wanted to kind of point out, that game that you're describing right there, of just like the intersection between a very personal connection to the song and this kind of wide appeal is elusive at best, and maybe even like coincidental in a way when it does really happen. But that's just like a different way of, I feel like, writing song. It comes from a different bucket than like also a really cool song. I like kind of come back, I'll sort of check out country radio here and there just to see what's going on, because it's like always those big songs are clever as hell. Yeah. They got those like,
I'm like, it does scratch an itch.
It totally does.
Yeah.
But I don't go back to that music because it's sort of like, I don't know, it's like not made for me, for one thing. But it's like you played that game at a very high level, whatever.
Oh my, I don't feel that way.
From this end of the table.
I thought where we were going to end up is like, we don't do that.
Well, it's for you to say. You can say whatever you want about yourself.
I feel like, that's something that I kind of similar to the goal setting thing has come later. There's such a respect that I have for the more disciplined writers like Andrew Combs that are in my world, like that I get to see a little bit of like their process just from knowing them over time. Like Caroline is like always who I go to, or like, yeah, they are like seasoned songwriters and like crafters of like the lyrics, and it creates like such a satisfying combination of like structure, and I'm kind of repeating myself, but structure and feeling. And I feel like I'm not a good editor of my songs. Like it's just now occurring to me that I could stand to like go, you know, and be like, I could tweak that a little bit and maybe make it. But it's sort of like, if it doesn't come out, you know, in the first iteration of me like trying to write it, then it's like hard for me to, I don't know.
So
it's hard for me to go back.
Yeah, grab
I'm not
that
a
energy
honer.
and ride that. Yeah. Totally understand.
But I would like to be.
We could all stand a bit to be a little bit more.
I would like to hone it.
Eddier. You know who's another guy in that category? Because I'm thinking about him. I also mentioned or met this fella at that house with Daniel, Daniel and Lion. It's Donovan Woods. I don't know. He might have even been there that night.
Yes.
But that guy is another one that's just like, God, some of those songs.
Yes.
And he's, I think, probably a serious crafter or a serious editor, because those songs like do not.
They don't miss.
They don't miss. They don't waste words.
Yeah.
It's just like every word is like necessarily there.
Yes.
Very good. Good job, guy.
Yes.
Keep up the
good
good
job,
work.
Don.
Good job, Don. Yeah. So, okay. I'm curious too. Okay. So your journey has been different. I just had a guest on setting this question up. Okay. Focus and execute. My friend Anna Vogelsang, we just had a little chat, and she, like me, kind of her vision when she was starting out was like, you just tour all the time. Like if you play shows, then you're doing it.
Yeah.
And you don't wait for the song. You don't meet people. You don't let people decide whether or not you get to do it. And consequently, you're out there all the time.
Yeah.
And that's validating in its way. And it comes at significant cost also.
Yes.
But, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you didn't do that. You stayed in town. I don't know. I'd talk about that, or do you?
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I had some good friends early on too. Like John Davey is one of my oldest songwriter friends, and he was very much, talk about a song crafter, by the way. So good. I met him through Anthony Simpkins, his Gems on VHS video series here in town. But he was somebody who, when I met him, he had been touring like in that way, like get in the car, book DIY shows, go, and like over time had built up, you know, his fans and his following. And to me, I think it just it seemed more elusive to me to be able to do that. Like I did try here and there. Me and Molly Parton did a weekend tour once that was literally like one house show and a show on it was Thacker Mountain Radio. I think that was in Birmingham.
I always wanted to play that show.
Yeah. We got that. And then we played a house show at, you know, a friend's house for like 8 people or whatever in Memphis. And that was like our weekend tour. But it just seemed like also financially, I couldn't actually like figure out how to generate income to like to go out on to start with. And I think a lot of people were just braver than me and more a little scrappier and like, okay, I've got, you know, $20, put it in the gas tank, go play a show, stay there until I make money and keep going, or, you know, or like, and I also think I was just more like insular and kind of like idealistic like sort of the fantasy, the idea of music that really took up a lot of my brain space for a long time, rather than learning how to like put the pedal to the metal and like go
grind.
Do it. Yeah. And so I feel like very fortunate that I was able to, I don't know, started hopping on singing harmonies for people. And that was like a big way that I got to be introduced to other people and like go on tour for it, really. Like Andrew Combs I met him when I was putting my first EP out, and he brought me on tour a lot because I would open for him, and like we'd share a band, and I have like basically him to thank, and then also Kale Tyson, who doesn't live here anymore, but he brought me and introduced me to my first little label that was in the UK. So anyways, I can go on like such a tangent.
This is great. No,
because it's like kind of fascinating to me, like how it ends up,
all the puzzle pieces, like all the,
I'm like, how did I end up getting to do this? Like,
well, if I can say from my side of things, it's like, from not having done it this way, the wisdom of that approach is one where you sort of put a premium on your own creative work, rather than a bunch of carefully worded emails out into the universe, which is what I and my ilk did a lot of, which is fine. You know, and like I was also a huge motivating thing for me was like the adventure of the road. And I toured by myself a lot, and there were like hijinks ensued, you know. It scratched the itch for sure, time and again. But you know, in hindsight, the cost of that is like absent community. You're out there in the spaceship by yourself all the time. And you spend so much time figuring out how to play the shows and make it all pay that you're not really like crafting. So it's a miracle I wrote any songs at all. I don't know when I had time. Now I'm in a place where I'm just like, I'm not doing it. We got a kid. Got this little spot. And it's wonderful. All this time is opened up to be creative. And so I feel like I've like learned it a little bit later than perhaps you did. But I just think that is so. Also, the other thing I wanted to say about the wisdom of your approach was being part of a community at so early an age, and being open to that, and being of service to like-minded individuals. And also not like, this is advice to my young self or some other idiot kid wondering how to do it. I don't know if you had a straight job or, you know, like whatever, something that just paid the bills that wasn't music, that made it a little bit less little less risky. But that is something I did not really do either. I was just like, I would damned if I was not going to make music pay my rent.
I feel like that's
tall order,
incredible, and or like the approach that I was like envious of, and also kind of I have always thought it was way cooler, like getting out there and doing it. And I think for me, it's like a broader thing I've realized about myself in the last several years, of just like kind of the dreaming of a thing, and then actually experiencing it, and like navigating relationships within it, and navigating like, and the goal setting, and like what needs to be like the discipline that's required to actually like maintain this thing that I'm like promoting myself doing. I don't know. I can totally get lost on this subject because it's like feels very complex to me. But
maybe is it partly like the practical skill set of like living on planet Earth?
Truly. Thank you for saying that. That's exactly what it is.
I think about this a lot because I having done a lot, been very scrappy and like lived hand to mouth for so many years, and like even when I first moved to town, I had like a thing up. I came from the out west. I grew up in Idaho, and I went to college in Seattle area, and I had my career began there. And I had a moment up in the Pacific Northwest, and for a second there, I had management, and I was like the opening act for Ray LaMontagne, for Keith Urban, like anybody who was like even slightly acoustic, Nickel Creek. And I was like the young kid coming up, and then it all like heat cooled, subsided. And I realized like, oh, I could kind of settle into the Seattle scene or go to Nashville. And I had been coming a little bit. And at that time, like what was happening in Seattle was like Death Cab and Modest Mouse, which both amazing fucking bands, but I was like really into Doc Watson, you know? And I was just like, okay, these aren't my people. And so I came and promptly was disabused of any notion of greatness.
Totally.
Courtesy of Nashville, Tennessee. I had to get a job parking cars. I worked at a hotel for like 3 years, valet parking cars. And it hurt my feelings at the beginning. In hindsight, it was like the best possible thing that could ever happen to me. because I realized how good I wasn't compared to like, I was no longer special. And also it just like, it kind of purified my intention in the sense that it was like, I was 29 or something. And it was like, well, do you want to do this really? Or was it just kind of a fun thing that was easy? Yeah. That you were kind of like, you didn't have to work too hard at it. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm not going to grad school. I'm not going to learn how to sell real estate. I don't care. I will park cars. Yeah. And it was really helpful in the sense. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that I have that mentality ever since. It's just very, I don't think it's like poverty spirit or anything like that. That's not it. But it's like it's a hardworking thing. Like I wake up very early so that I can do it. Yeah. But I'm always, the other side of it is I'm always just like, there's not like working hard isn't well, working hard isn't a virtue unto itself. Like you can just be like working hard why I'm saying this is because you said something about like you're doing all of these things to like be busy, but you're like I feel like what you didn't quite say, or there's something other, there's like, is this the direction, is this the way I should be spending my time? Yeah. Like, should I be time spent in action doing one thing is time not spent doing another thing, and so it's, you never quite know. Yeah, I totally. Yeah, it was a very long way of saying no. I'm like, I was following, and I also like, I feel like this. I don't even say. We're getting into some good stuff right here. This is good. This is a real podcast. This is real shit. Excuse my language, but like for example, like there would be times where I don't know, in hindsight, I was like, oh, I might have like rubbed that person the wrong way. And when thinking about like, why would that have been? It's like, oh, because I was like sort of in a dreamland about like my own, what was possible for me and what was just going to come easily to me. And like, I don't know, in collaborating with different people and like, why? I don't know, just... I sort of have realized in the last several years, like, oh, like the reality, I should have written about this before trying to speak about it. Tracking. But like, I just kind of had this sense of like, I spent a lot of time in my head dreaming about the thing. And like, so when I actually got out to do it and got to be a part of stuff and people started hiring me to play shows or like, then there's like this sense of like, oh, actually y'all are the real people doing it because y'all have been out in the mix cutting your teeth, and I'm getting to like come in, and I just feel like I had a lot of like living to catch up to like where I was in my dreamland, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And there's like some quote, I can't remember who it is, maybe we'll find it, put it in the show notes. Okay. We'll about like, it's okay to build a castle in the clouds, you just need to build a foundation to support it underneath. And that like was kind of a turning point. It was like this combination of it dawning on me how much I'd been kind of in a fantasy land about like, oh, like if I make this decision to like play with different people, not recognizing the weight, like the people that I was playing with, like just thinking like, oh, they won't, I don't know, just not being very grounded in like how it might feel to other people. Like you just waltzed on in there. I kind of just, climbed up on stage and sang some harmonies. Just like you belonged up there. Yeah. I'm just like, or like when just like having a band and learning about like what it feels like to the people that are playing in my band to collaborate with, just like being able to see how they experience playing with me. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a tremendous amount of self-awareness in what you're saying, It's unpleasant. Hard one. Yeah. Sure. A lot of self-awareness is unpleasant. Yeah, I'm like, basically, I don't know. I'm just in this kind of like paradigm, I don't know if paradigm shift, but I'm in a shift right now of like just seeing everything a lot differently than
I did initially. Like, I'm out of the Dreamland space. There are so many dreamy aspects to what we get to do. Like, it's pretty amazing, like, to get to travel and play music on stage. But sometimes I find myself on stage, I'm like, why am I up here? Like, how did I get here? I can't believe that I decided that, or I've been, you know, pursuing this thing and thinking like, everybody should listen to what I'm singing. Like, why do I think that? You know, it's like that kind of existential sort of things. And it's been really grounding to like, I want to spend time focusing on my craft and discipline, and so that I feel like I have put the work in, you know,
that you belong,
that like, unto
like, yourself, by your own standard. Slowly,
there's no right or wrong way ultimately to go about it. Like, you learn your life lessons, but I definitely, I don't know. Where's a good place to jump off of this? We're going to revisit this,
but I thought maybe we could talk you into playing a song here.
Oh, sure. I suppose that would be a good idea.
Do you want to set it up?
Yes. This song was the title track to my last record. It's called Lighten Up and Try. And I wrote it with my friend Andrew Combs, actually. And it's, as you can hear, I'm such a neurotic person. So this song is about like being less hard on yourself and just like starting, you know, stop analyzing, for me, and then just have a little compassion for yourself.
Youth is full of promise, with a harness for the wind. Time will keep you honest, and honest is all that matters then. There with all your memories for you to pick apart, might just be where you begin to notice the pattern of the heart. What are you gonna do for love? See a spark and just let it light. What are you gonna do for love? Fan the flame, lighten up and try. Long has lived the habit to want and send away. Gone now are the chances. I should have asked for you to stay. What are you gonna do for love? See a spark and just let it light. What are you gonna do for love? Fan the flame, lighten up, and what are you gonna do for love? See a spark and just let it light. What are you gonna do for love? Fan the flame, light
Well, that was fantastic. And for those who, well, I guess even if you're watching it on YouTube or something, you can't see, but my daughter came in and my wife cried holding her. And it was just really, really beautiful. You're good at a lot of things, but those melodies are both inevitable and surprising.
Thank you.
You know,
I don't know why that
it's a really lovely
happens.
Yeah, I don't either. It's a spiritual thing.
Thank you.
We've covered a lot of territory. This is all super interesting, and this is where
I feel like I've planted a lot of seeds, but I haven't.
planted a lot of seeds.
We haven't seen the flowers
I
yet.
I see their little heads poking up. Don't you worry. But one quick thing: do you know? Not to dwell on this, but are you an Enneagram person at all?
I have taken that darn test many times, and I feel like it's something different every time.
Okay,
good
indication that you're a unique individual.
I'm hard to pin down, you know, but just kidding. Someone gave me a book, may have been my mom, that was like one of the early books about Enneagrams, and there's the idea that like the number you identify with the most is, or a good like indicator of what you align with is what's your basic fear. Mm-hmm. And I think this was in 2020 when I was reading it, but I think it was like, I felt aligned with a 5 at that time, which I need to actually look.
That makes sense. I don't know all of the numbers, but I know the interesting ones.
Yeah.
And the 5 is one of them. They're like the tinkerer.
Thank you very much.
And so like when you say that, what I made me think of this was that you kind of talk about like living in your head a little bit.
Yeah.
And instead of on the ground, and that's you kind of express a little, not regret, but you know, maybe a need to shift or a habit in the past. And that's like the 5 is like the endless tinkerer, they kind of thing. And I have as a 4 person, and I'm like, unfortunately for me, I take the damn test and I'm the exact same thing every single time. So I guess they got me. But that person tends to live in his or her head a good bit. And I have had to discipline myself over many, many years of bad habits in a way to be on planet Earth. And like part of that effort has been to like create obligations for myself, you know, to just keep things going. It's like, I'm a person that I like will live by my feelings. Yeah. And I realized early on that that's going to be suicidal in the long run, or I'll just like be very non-productive because I'm just kind of depressed all the time. Yeah. And so if I, you know, can discipline myself out of that, then there's hope for me. But anyway, this is neither here nor there. You said something earlier that I thought was interesting, and I wanted to comment on it because I think it's really good, like gets at the heart of something that I think artists and creative people struggle with, which is this like not being too hard on yourself. And at the same time, in order to make something of value or clever or worthy of attention, you kind of have to be critical of the thing while you're making it. And so it's difficult, I think, I'll say this for myself, maybe it's not difficult for other people, but to strike this kind of impossible balance between forgiving yourself for your perceived shortcomings and being gentle, holding things gently, and also being rigorous and knowing when you could do better. Yes. That's really easier said than done.
Yeah. The combination of like having like a kind of a standard which can move or whatever, but like, being gentle, but holding myself to like a standard of, that's such a difficult thing. And I think I definitely, obviously, maybe, just have been very feelings led for such a long time, and also have been high-key afraid to operate on like that. What I was talking about earlier, like the practical plane, like setting goals and like making plans. Like I feel like how I relate to the 5 is like, it talks about how it was like you feel most connected to someone after you've hung out with them, like when you're alone and able to process. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I feel connected to them. Like, or we had this thing and I'm kind of reflecting on it. And I don't know. I feel like that applies to many parts of my life, but just generally being pretty like avoidant and like wanting to sort of control what could I don't know, what I could experience, I guess, like kind of wanting to, it's scary to.
Where do you think that, where does that come from? Like wanting to control what you could experience? What's the fear behind that?
I feel like this is like really getting into it, and I'm okay.
Whatever
with it.
you want to stop.
I'm
That's
here
totally
for
fine.
it.
Yeah.
I am like just kind of realizing, which I think this part of this time in life is kind of like when that starts to happen. Just realizing the ways of like my mask self, or like how I show up to the world and how I want to be perceived, and like the strategy of like creating of like identity. It's not like an intentional thing. I think all humans, from what I am told, like one of my like mentors calls them like survival strategies, and it's like this like outgoing like songwriter self that like I want people to, I don't know, like I want people to perceive me as this like sweet folk singer, because I was uncomfortable just kind of like existing in the moment, if that makes sense. Like yeah, I think I was living
like,
more in my head to go have like a controlled experience. Like I'll go clock in, you know, like go out to this thing.
You get this version of me that I choose for you to see.
And I'm not aware that I'm like I'm not trying to be inauthentic. I'm like literally just trying to be like safe in the moment or whatever.
Yeah.
And like feel like, and it, I guess, yeah, I just kind of, I think that, now I'm realizing like, oh, there's like some fear of just being my authentic self. There's some low self-esteem. There's like all this stuff underneath there, kind of that, and the way that I was operating sort of helped me be in the world and not have to like, yeah, it was kind of like a safety blanket
like
or
safe,
whatever. Yeah.
in a way.
Like a little security shield. And then I was like, oh, I am just now finally kind of having this experience, like the last couple of years doing some integrating work, like therapy stuff. And, yeah, just being like, what do I really want? Like, how do I really want to go about this creative life? And how does it feel like to be doing all of these things that I signed up to do? And like, do I feel like my most authentic self? Like, I don't know. I forgot what we started to talk about, but
this is what we're talking about. And if I might bring it up, I know that you lost your mom.
Yes.
Really quite recently.
Yes.
And my condolences, first of all.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
Thank you so much.
And if I might be so bold, was that expected or surprised?
It was pretty surprising. Yeah, I might get teary-eyed, but I was on tour last fall with Ray LaMontagne and Gregory Alan Eiskopf and Cactus Blossoms in between there. And it was like September 15th. She had to go to the hospital. And it turned out, we found out a few days later, she had bile duct cancer. And they thought that it's a pretty rare cancer, and they thought that they'd caught it early, but it turns out we think she was sick for a longer period of time. So yeah, it was 5 months from finding out to when she transitioned. Yeah. And it was like 2 months yesterday. But what happened in between there is she moved, they were living in Oxford, Mississippi at the time, and she moved in with me actually, and lived with me from October to February, and we did hospice at home. And she is such a cool lady. Like, I'm like, she is, yeah, just, yeah, of course I'm processing, like, just seeing, it's so strange to like, have you lost a parent?
No, I'm not a parent, but my little sister passed at 19, but suddenly as well. So
I'm so sorry.
I can relate to the grief and the...
Yeah. Just like seeing it's kind of like you have like suddenly this like totality of this person. It's like, I don't know. It's very strange.
It's kind of in a way, what you were just talking about, like you're in the perfect place according to your self-training
Yeah.
to fully appreciate this person. You know, it's like
Yes.
now you can sit there and reflect
Yes.
on, there's a great deal of pain associated with that, I'm sure, because it's like,
yeah, I'm like, I
irrecoverable.
could have been this way. I could have been more present during this time, for sure. And yet I feel like so fortunate because it's so rare, like that we were able to have some awareness that what the timeline was. And it's also so strange how you have to like really ask the doctors to be like, what is reality? Like, tell us what you actually
because
think.
they're just being like,
Yeah, because so many people respond in such different ways to the death. And she was like Buddhist and a meditation teacher and counselor and had done a lot of like, yeah, she's an ordained Buddhist minister. And like, she was curious and excited about the idea of like, you know, there was grief and there was sadness that she was not going to be able to be here for like my niece, who's her granddaughter, and for a longer period of time. And she told me, I kind of had intuited this, which I was like, I could not ever, she would have to say it first, but she was like, yeah, I'm kind of excited and curious as like, what am I going to experience on the other side of this? Like, I don't feel afraid of dying. And there were no real topics that were off the table. So it was very like unconventional experience of being able to just like, this is the experience, this is what's happening, and getting to grieve with her and like talk, you know, it was like every time I hugged her I would cry for a while, you know. And yeah, it's very strange, but I was like, yeah, it just sort of timed out in this way of like getting to reconnect and be at home with her for those months, which it was not like a grueling thing of like, not, you know, she was just basically uncomfortable and pain was being managed, but they weren't really able to do much treatment stuff. So we were literally just hanging out, like watching TV and like hanging, you know? Yeah.
But I mean, in a way, so an incredible gift.
Yes, incredible gift.
Opportunity at the end of life to just talk it all out.
Yeah, and like I think there's a lot of stuff she already knew, and I don't know that we necessarily had any monumental like, I've never told you this, but it's like we're pretty open.
Did she say she had like a wish for you? You know,
she did not, but I think she just totally believes that like we're gonna be okay. You know, like it's kind of like this. It was very affirming. And my dad is this way too, like very much like, yeah, like I trust the universe or whatever, you know, spiritual God, whatever, like it's going to work out, like all is well, basically. And like, so yeah, I don't know, maybe this is like, no, I feel fine. I like told her one day there was like, it was kind of, I guess this was probably like in January. I went to give her a hug and I just had this experience of like wanting to like, you know, hold on to her, you know, and like sort of cling to like her as like my mom and like in this physical body or whatever. But I was like, it's so fascinating. Like I had this visual image of like, even in this moment, as I'm like hugging you, I feel that you're not like, I can't do that. Like even in this present moment in our physical bodies, I can't like grab onto you and like you're always in motion or something, if that makes sense. Like you're always like, your spirit is, I can't do that. That's like, I can't grasp you
can't
like
possess.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just was like, yeah, very, and we talked about that. And, that was something I wanted. She's, you know, obviously with the Buddhism, there's like the non-clinging is like such a part of that. And, so she was very sweet, of course, and like let me cry and process stuff. And I also wanted to be mindful of like, I don't want to like burden her as well with my like that, you know, that feeling of like clinging to her. So anyway, light stuff, but
yeah, no, it's I have nothing intelligent to say to that. It's just it's a very profound thing.
Yeah,
and it strikes at the deepest mystery of being.
Yeah,
to lose somebody you love, and
yeah, it's very surreal.
It's very surreal, and it's very real. It's not. There's also it's not surreal too. And I feel like we live in a culture where death is shuffled out of sight as quickly as possible. And I think that's maybe to our detriment in some ways, because we do all have to experience it repeatedly as we lose loved ones and then ourselves finally, that we don't have any practice. Yeah. It's like when my little sister passed, among the many emotions I felt was, including ones like regret and things I just didn't, she loved me so much, you know, but at her funeral, everybody who came, just their just being there is such like an incredible honoring of her memory, and like I will just never take that for granted. And I'm just like so grateful to each one of those people, some of whom I did not know, that, you know, like wild people from my sister's past life who drove all night from Oklahoma and just like my parents' friends, or just like people that they're my parents' church who came down. It's just like little things like that, you know. Before that, when somebody would lose somebody, I would be afraid to say something to them, even if it's like a little post, because I just didn't want to be like, I'm so sorry for your loss. Yeah. But I remember that when I announced that for my sister, that every single person who said, like, even I'm so sorry for your loss, I was just like, thank you. Yeah. You know, thank you. Yeah. It was deeply meaningful to me in a way that I was really surprised by. So I always make a point now, you know, like there's a club we just lost in our music community, Travis Collinsworth at the 5 spot, who Todd was a guest on the pod earlier, great guest, a great club. And I remember him talking about how, you know, it's really Travis who sort of shaped that club and kind of was the backbone of like keeping it all together. And it's just like when I saw that post, it's just like, I didn't even personally know Travis, but I just feel the loss, you know, to the community and the club. And it's just like, it's an opportunity to, you know, feeling grief is an opportunity to honor somebody. Yeah. And it's a really, really beautiful thing. Yeah. You know? Like, you fucking lived. Yes. You fucking lived, and you mattered. You made a difference. Yes. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for what you brought to my life, how you've blessed my life. You know, long may you run. Yes. I fucking love you. Yes. Truly. Like, yeah. There's no wrong words, you know, for that emotion, I feel like. Yeah. It's like, my dad, I feel like, would say it's psychedelic, and I feel like it is. It's like, I'm like, it's so true. It's like there's this energetic feeling of just like the processing of it is like, whoa. And then I feel like I'm not, you know, obviously it's pretty early, and I don't understand. Like, a lot of the time I'll be like with my niece or with my family and with my friends and feeling mostly okay, and then I'll be just like sobbing out of nowhere. Yeah. But also, I it was such a gift that she gave by like, it was like so generous of her, and earnest and generous is like, and she was so always like from childhood, like taking care of other people, and just, I don't know. I'm just happy. Like, I feel like she got to really rest, and we got to just like hang out. And then I loved that she was like curious and excited about it. And I was like, that's such a blessing to be. It really simplifies the grief for me,
because I don't have this feeling of like wanting to protect her from feeling scared or sad, or like, of course I do, but you know.
Yeah. She didn't need that. She was okay.
She was like, I got
peace.
this basically. And like, I just literally needed to like hang out with you and watch TV. Like, I don't know.
You can do that. Yeah. Lighter subject, just to kind of ease us back on out there into the world.
Hey everyone.
Are you working on a record right now? Is it, you know, are you just writing songs?
Time.
Are you just like not worried about it, or?
I have been writing some songs, and it kind of finally feels like maybe time to put some together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sort of. I don't know. I feel like I'm noticing that I have long gaps between when I make records. Like the last Lighten Up came out in 22, and I recorded it in 2021, and I feel like, yeah, I want to be more like prolific than that at times, but just, I don't know. I feel like my process is like very much connected to what's going on in life, and like that's what I'm mostly writing about, is what I'm learning in this realm. Yeah. So if I ain't learned nothing yet, I don't have anything to say, you know what I mean? And I don't, not that I like completely learned anything, but anyways,
you learn a little bits and
a little
pieces.
something. So yeah, I need to make a record. I'm excited. I feel inspired. I feel excited to collaborate with people and just getting back out on the road and being in life. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to the new music, as I enjoyed the old, and I just am really grateful to have had a second to like see your bright spirit.
Thanks for having me.
Like live and in real life.
And likewise, truly. Yeah.
Cool.
This is awesome.
More soon.
Long live Morse code.
Erin, talk soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Morse Code podcast is produced by Korby, Lenker, and Jared Hammond in East Nashville, Tennessee. Our executive producer is Randa Newman. You can find full videos for this and all previous episodes at morsecodepodcast.com.